Welcome back, fellow internet adventurers. Get ready for another wild ride through Reddit's strangest stories. We're diving deep into the internet's quirkiest corners. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Lou. You can call me whatever you like. I'm married to Ruby, and we've been together for 4 years. We haven't decided to have kids yet because we like being independent. Maybe we'll think about it later when we're older. Ruby and I both grew up poor. We didn't meet until we were 18 at a college event. Ruby did really well in school, and now she's an accountant. I wasn't great at school, but I'm good at working hard and managing business matters. When I was 15, I started cleaning at local stores and offices. By the time I was 18, I was in charge of 30 workers and had contracts with big companies. Ruby was looking for a job when she gave me her resume at an event. She wasn't looking for a cleaning job, but she gave me her number. I called her, and we went out to dinner. Because of that dinner, Ruby got a job at an engineering company. She started at the bottom, but worked her way up to overseeing several departments. We both made good money and didn't have kids. My cleaning business did really well, too. I bought out some other companies and became the biggest cleaning service in the city. One day, my secretary told me that a man named Ross Evans, a private detective, was waiting for me. I let him in and greeted him with a handshake. After exchanging pleasantries, he sat down with a smile and asked, "Before we begin, could I have some coffee?" He mentioned he hadn't had any all day and desperately needed a cup. Understanding the necessity, my assistant promptly served us coffee, including putting milk and sugar in the mugs, although neither of us used them. After some light conversation, I steered the discussion to the primary matter. "So, Ross, how can I assist you?" I inquired. He didn't hesitate to explain. "Please just call me Ross," he responded. "I'm a private investigator. My client thinks his wife might be having an affair or getting close to it. She works as an accountant at a company called Steven Piping, which gets its supplies from on metals. They just hired a new salesman named Alistair Clark, who is known for trying to get with married women. He's been sending my client's wife flowers and late-night texts. It's been normal until now, but now he's asking to meet overnight. We've gathered a lot of information, but there are still gaps. When I heard about On Metals, it caught my attention because Ruby's company also gets supplies from them. I didn't want Ruby getting involved with someone like Clark. I noticed Ross waiting for me to respond, so I asked him how I could help. He smiled and said, "I hoped you would ask. It's straightforward. Clark sends flowers, notes, and other objects to her desk. She reads them and discards them. Your team manages the waste. They can retrieve anything personal from him and forward it to us. We'll review it through our legal department. Collecting personal items is not legally problematic. We also obtained approval from her employer, allowing us to collect data without risking legal repercussions from breaching her agreements. If you're curious why they consented, here is the CEO's card. Call him to verify." The CEO's number was already saved in my phone. Without uttering a word to Ross, I called. He answered on the second ring and, without any formalities, stated, "Lou, I understand Ross Evans is with you. I authorize you to collect and relay any non-company related information to him or his team. Our attorney is preparing a formal letter, which we will send to you via email. I have to leave. He's waiting in my office, but call me if you need anything else." With that, he disconnected the call before I could respond. Clearly, they wanted this resolved quickly. Ross confirmed what I said. "Give me all the details, and we'll start separating our trash into a different bag. I'll sort through it here, and you can collect it every morning at 11. Does that work for you?" Ross said it was good that I called the boss. He told us what to look for. We searched for things like lunch breaks, flowers, notes, and more. We worked with Ross for about 6 weeks. Then he said the investigation was done. One of my workers saw the person we were watching not come back after lunch. We told Ross, who followed him to a motel. After that, the marriage ended, and things went back to normal at work and home. But one day, Ruby seemed worried. I tried to ask her about it, but she didn't want to talk. A week later, Donna, a longtime employee who had been with me almost from the start, came into my office. Donna was a respected employee and a friend. Being 25 years my elder, she treated me like a son. As she sat down, I sensed something was wrong, and then she began, "Remember a few months ago when we were conducting that surveillance in the office?" My interest was piqued, and I replied, How could I forget? It was quite a fascinating period. Why do you mention it? I looked at her curiously and encouraged her to go on. She hesitated before continuing. As you're aware, I work in the same office as your wife now, and the man we were monitoring is visiting her office. I saw a large bouquet of flowers, and she took them with her to lunch. Here's the card that came with the flowers. She gave me the card, and I read it. It said, "Dear Ruby, thanks for helping me with my contract at your job. I appreciate it a lot. Let's have lunch soon and catch up. Affectionately, Alistair." Reading it, I felt worried. The card hinted that they might have met before and were getting too close. Remembering what Ross said about Alistair, I realized my wife might be in danger. I thanked Donna and asked her to keep an eye out for any more messages and to tell me about them right away. I called Ross without wasting any time. He answered on the third ring. "Hello, Lou. How can I help?" I promptly shared Donna's findings. She used to do the nightly cleanup during our investigation. Once it finished, we reassigned her, and now she's in my wife's office. Donna has reported that the same Mr. Clark is now pursuing my wife, even taking her out to lunch. I've received a card with flowers from him indicating his intentions. Ross took a deep breath. Our investigation into Mr. Clark is still active. You're actually the third husband currently involved. The difference is that the other two didn't initially know who he was. They've agreed to share the expenses. Would you like to join them? I quickly responded, "Absolutely. What's next?" Ross suggested a meeting with the other husbands at 2 p.m. He also proposed, "Could you come to my office to fill out paperwork and share information?" I agreed to arrive at 1:55 p.m. In Ross's office, I met Dan McWilliams and Johnny Ashley, along with Ross and his co-worker Mike Pearson, who was helping with the case. Ross started the meeting by saying, "Guys, we're here because you three are dealing with the same problem. Dan, Johnny, meet Lou. He wants to help with your investigation. If you're okay with it, we'll sign him up as a client and share information." They looked at me and then at Ross and agreed, saying, "Sure, that's fine." It took about 15 minutes to fill out the forms. I paid the $15 an M with my personal credit card so Ruby wouldn't see it on our statement. Ross talked to Dan, Johnny, and me about our concerns regarding Mr. Alistair Clark. To give you some background, Dan's wife works with Mr. Clark at Metals Incorporated, and Johnny's wife works for the school board, which buys metals for technology classes. Mr. Clark follows a routine where he approaches women at their workplaces with flowers, messages, and lunch invitations. He often tries to get them to go to a motel after lunch. He uses the same tactics with married women, encouraging those with children to cheat and convincing childless women to ask their husbands for permission for secret meetings. He seems to enjoy knowing that husbands are aware he's winning over their wives. He plans weekend escapades only to desert them later. Over the past year, we have recorded at least 5 marriages in our region that ended due to his actions. A further investigation uncovered his prior employment in Dallas, where he was dismissed after being sued by 7 husbands in a group lawsuit over 3 years for alienation of affection. This man is contemptible. Ross poured me some more coffee. "Lou, are you tasked with cleaning at Metals Incorporated or the school district office?" According to our last check, if you collect trash from your wife's bin, you're allowed to use its contents unless there's a confidentiality clause in your contract with the cleaning company. I shook my head. "No, we aren't," was my response. Ross noted, "That's a pity. However, keep collecting trash from your wife's bin. Who pays for your wife's phone bill?" "My company does," I responded. Ross smiled and asked, "What's her phone number?" "Samsung," I said plainly. "Excellent. Please fill out this form allowing us to access data from her phone." He then handed me a paper with a QR code, adding, "Scan this code on her phone. It will connect you to our server. Use the username and password provided, and a program will be installed on her device. This program will transmit all calls, messages, emails, and WhatsApp chats to us. We understand he often uses a mobile phone to prevent his wife from answering calls at home." The meeting concluded with Dan, Johnny, and me exchanging phone numbers and forming a WhatsApp group. Ross and Mike joined as well to facilitate easy sharing of information. When I arrived home, Ruby was already there, visibly anxious. She held onto her phone tightly and seemed distant when we talked. Then she went to feed the dog, taking her phone with her, which was unusual. When I asked about her day, she said she felt tired after a strange day and went to bed at 9:32 p.m., much earlier than usual. I stayed up until our usual bedtime. Then I looked for her phone. It wasn't where it usually is. I went to our bedroom, and near the bed, I found a phone cord and saw her phone hidden under her pillow. When I looked closer, this worried me, and I went to bed feeling uneasy. Luckily, she woke up in the middle of the night, so I quickly scanned the QR code, entered the details, and put her phone back without her noticing. The next morning, before she left for work, she moved around the house quietly. If I hadn't talked to her, she wouldn't have said anything. Around 11:30 a.m., I called from Ross's office. They finished looking into things, and he said she made a new email account just for him. This helps us with our investigation. At first, we didn't know how they were communicating, but now we're trying to get into his email. His messages are troubling. He made her say I was her first and only and suggested she should try new things to make our marriage better. She told him private things about us, and he used them for himself. He suggested making our love life better, and even talked about going away for a weekend when they met recently. Now he says it's only physical and tries to make her feel guilty, saying it's not wrong if she loves me. Last night and this morning, she seemed lost in thought and didn't pay much attention to me. I asked if they were still talking or planning to meet again. Let's have lunch at the beach club tomorrow and talk. If you talk to Lou, he won't see it as cheating, and he can't say no. Her reply was just, okay. After talking with Mike, I sat back and thought about what to do. Talking directly might not work, and he might keep trying, even taking her to a hotel. No, I have to do something, or our marriage is over, I thought to myself. I called Ross and explained the situation briefly. It seems this man is aggressively pursuing Ruby. If I try to stop him, he might try something else like suggesting a hotel. I need a plan to prevent more problems. I'm thinking about getting a divorce, and I think I need a backup plan, but I'm not sure what it should be. What do you think, Ross? He paused before answering. Having a backup plan is smart, but if it doesn't work, he won't give up. I know his type, and he'll fight to keep her. If you can't forgive her, divorce might be the only choice. He offered to draft some papers for my lawyer or suggest one. I have my own, I said. He made an agreement to protect my business in case of a divorce. I set up a meeting with my lawyer for the next morning at 9:30. When I got to his office, he looked at me carefully. Change your mind, he asked. I laughed, knowing he understood me well. I started feeling that Ruby is close to cheating on me. A salesman at her job is getting her attention, and she's falling for it now. I think I need a plan to stop it all, but if she's unfaithful, then all bets are off. We talked for the next hour about what to do. I preferred a simple divorce. As for the business, it would be split evenly, with no need for child support since we don't have kids. We'll sell the house. I don't plan to sue Clark or his company. It's too expensive and probably wouldn't work. We finalized the agreement with a handshake. After I paid him, he said he'd finish all the paperwork and keep it safe for later. Ruby's behavior was inconsistent throughout the week. One night she was loving. The next, she barely noticed me. On Friday afternoon, Donna informed me that Ruby had received a large bouquet and a postcard. This confirmed my suspicions, so I sought advice while drafting a message in our WhatsApp group. I saw Ross's message to Dan inviting him to dinner at the Holiday Inn. We knew his intentions, but the issue remained unresolved. I urgently told Dan to join me, hoping he would succeed soon. My own problems weighed heavily on me. I was so distracted that I kept dropping things. I informed the group about the flowers and the postcard. Mike responded quickly, I'll check her email now. Nothing yet. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Without hanging up, Mike directed me to check my WhatsApp. I opened the app and saw a document confirming a hotel booking at a lake about 30 miles from the city. It was for a double room for Friday and Saturday under the names Clark and Ruby. I went back to the call and told them about it, but the email was even more upsetting. He said Ruby had written a sort of guidebook called a cheetah's manual, explaining what to say and do. He promised to send it to me, and when I got it, I saw a bunch of messages with the subject weekend. It all started about 2 weeks ago when he sent her a link to the exact hotel he booked. Later in these emails, he said he wanted to make her happy and suggested things to do. He asked for her opinion, and said he was sorry I wasn't making her happy. In the last email, he provided the reservation details and told her what to say and do to convince me. It was basically a guidebook for cheating, advising her to prepare a fancy meal on Thursday, be intimate during the week, and say it would only be physical with him, but fulfilling. He appealed to her feelings for him and left the choice to her. I wasn't sure what to do next. The weekend was busy and tiring. I couldn't talk about what I knew, but she was really supportive. We were intimate on Friday night, Saturday morning and night, and even on Sunday. She wanted to be intimate again on Sunday afternoon, and we had a quick moment on Monday morning. Ross called at 3 on Monday with troubling news about the email. He mentioned the situation was critical. According to him, she suggested to Clark that they meet on Thursday night. If Clark declined, she wouldn't proceed, but if he agreed, she would. Ross also mentioned that if Clark was apprehensive, he should remember that it's often simpler to seek forgiveness than permission. I thanked him and requested he compile all the crucial documents into a folder. He inquired if there were any intimate photos, and I confirmed. I heard him shuffling papers and verifying that there was a photo of them kissing, though not fervently. I directed him to place everything in the folder with that photo at the forefront and sent it all to my attorney. He agreed to do so. After that, I called my lawyer to inform him that the folder was on its way. We planned to meet at the hotel on Saturday morning for breakfast. Divorce papers are incredibly challenging to handle. On Monday night, she wanted to be intimate, but I declined as I had pressing matters to attend to. I remained in my office working until 2 a.m. When I finally retired to bed, she was already asleep. Despite the late hour, I slept soundly and awoke at 6 o'clock to head to work, just before she could attempt intimacy again. A courier delivered the folder we anticipated. I sat in my office and perused it. Some photos exuded an essential vibe. She has a knack for being alluring in an unpredictable way, but it certainly has an effect. Ross mentioned helping with 7 marriages in the past. There was also a note from Dan about a distressing event at the holiday and involving his wife, Clark, and himself. Dan's wife left crying, and Ross had to drive Dan home. They were trying counseling to fix their marriage, especially since Dan's wife had quit her job, so Clark was out of work too. As I looked through the folder, my secretary came in looking determined and overwhelmed. I told her everything that had happened. She asked about my plans for the first time, and I smiled because I saw her not just as a secretary, but as a friend offering support. I also noticed something new about her, her undeniable charm. In response to her support, she smiled back. I told her to get ready for a divorce. If she leaves with him on Friday, she'll file at the hotel on Saturday. No second chances. I've been attempting to devise a plan B to stop her, but my mind is too cloudy for ideas. My secretary, formerly known as Miss Atwood, but who preferred Kathy, grinned slightly and quoted, "Why not have your own weekend with your dream girl?" I couldn't help but smile back, asking, "And who might that be?" I already knew the response she would provide. "Of course, your faithful assistant is encouraging you to relax your mind. It's purely for physical relief and has nothing to do with your marriage. Use this letter reference and send it to her before she does the same to you." The strategy was straightforward but effective, pushing Ruby to confront her disloyalty. Tuesday evening, I was intimate with my wife, feeling no emotion, which was difficult. By Wednesday morning, neither of us was in the mood for a brief interaction. By Wednesday night, the tension had slightly softened, but only just. On Thursday morning, as I was leaving, Ruby woke up yelling about dinner, but I ignored her on purpose. Around noon, Ross called to tell me that Ruby had messaged Clark, bragging about making a fancy meal for me and promising to keep him updated about our talk. To surprise her, I went shopping and bought chicken, potatoes, and veggies to roast along with her favorite white wine. I got home by 2:30 and had everything ready and in the oven within 2 hours. Just as I was putting the potatoes in, Ruby came back with shopping bags, looking confused. "What are you doing?" she asked. I smiled broadly. "I'm making dinner for you, my dear wife. I wanted it to be special before we talked." She seemed surprised and said, "Oh, I was planning to cook too, but after we eat, I need to talk about something important, so it will be a long evening." "Of course," I replied, turning away with a grin. I had already made her evening plans a lot busier. Dinner was tense, but I kept the conversation going, avoiding talking about myself. I encouraged her to enjoy the meal before I share my news. After we finished eating, I took the lead. "Let's talk in the kitchen," I suggested. Earlier, I had discreetly positioned a folder with a letter detailing her excuses on the kitchen table, hidden under some magazines. Now I removed the magazines, exposing just the printed document. "Ruby, you know I value you and would never mean harm," I began. "But we married young, and my inexperience was evident. Lately, my new assistant, Miss Atwood, or Kathy as she likes to be called, has been confiding in me. Her stories are intriguing. I could listen for hours. Now, I need to distance her from my thoughts before we commit to a lifetime together. I'll plan a hotel stay with her for the weekend. It will be strictly physical, a chance for me to unwind and maybe learn some new skills to try with you later. It doesn't change my love for you or our marriage. I'm telling you in advance, so it won't be seen as deceit. I trust your love for me enough to allow me this one weekend away from our marriage." Ruby's face turned crimson, on the brink of exploding. She exclaimed, "Over my dead body. I want this woman out by Monday morning." Her response relieved my tension, and I burst out laughing, commenting on her facial expression. It was unforgettable. Then it dawned on me that at every reply she planned, I had already anticipated. I closed the folder and handed it to her, unveiling a photo of her kissing Clark on the front. Her face paled as she murmured, "You knew, and you played me." I smiled. "Yes, I did. Your reaction is just like what mine would have been if things were different. But I didn't book a hotel like you did. Miss Atwood and I never had lunch together, kissed, or talked about love or closeness. My story was made up, but yours is real." As I said this, she looked through the folder and saw how much I knew. Dates, times, photos, emails called transcripts. She was very angry. "You followed me. You invaded my privacy. How could you?" I stayed calm. "That's all there is to it. It's time to do something or not. I care about you, but you need to realize there's a limit, and you're getting very close to it. You have a boyfriend. You're in an emotional relationship, and you were going to make it physical. You embarrass me and put our marriage at risk by doing that, and yet you're mad at me for trying to stop it. I thought we could fix this, but maybe I was wrong." I felt more sad than mad. "What do you mean by embarrassing you and risking our marriage? I never planned anything like that. It had nothing to do with our marriage," she said sharply, pointing at the infidelity playbook. "Why should this affect us?" I repeated her statements and then highlighted, "You reacted to me as if I uttered, 'Over my dead body.' So why is it okay for you to be unfaithful but not me?" She took a deep breath as if to argue. I raised my hand and cut her off. "There's no exemption. If you proceed with Clark, it constitutes cheating, even if you informed me beforehand." She looked away and whispered, "I can't deal with this at the moment. I need some time alone." With those words, she stood up swiftly and hurried upstairs, taking the folder with her. I heard the bedroom door close and lock. I gauged the situation, organized the house, and sat down at the table. Ross had given me a tablet to monitor all of Ruby's phone activities. I logged in and saw that she was communicating with Clark. The first message caught my attention. She was concerned about someone observing them and having duplicates of their messages. When she arrived home, her partner had prepared dinner and seemed to anticipate her thoughts, which annoyed her. Later, he revealed a folder with all the details, including the reservation. Clark was uncertain about the situation. He didn't view it as an issue and suggested they should reassure the other person that everything was set and that they must proceed. He proposed they discuss their affection and challenge the other person's emotions. He appeared desperate when I considered his advice. My partner disagreed, stating it would shame him and damage our marriage. He claimed that even asking for his consent would be seen as unfaithful. I couldn't go forward. Despite the allure of the weekend, I couldn't jeopardize my future with Lou seeing how disappointed he was. I understood that he had put all his efforts and resources into this, and now he was considering a drastic step. She was asked if she thought her husband would divorce her. She said no, unsure if he could find someone else like her. They suggested she pack her bags and bring them to work to see how he reacted. If that didn't work, they would keep going with the plan, then try to make things right on Sunday. Even though she knew it was a strange idea, she agreed to it. She decided that if it seemed like her husband might leave her, she wouldn't go through with the plan. She planned to meet the other person the next day, thinking more logically. He knew how to make her feel better. I put away the end and started watching TV, though my thoughts were occupied with everything. The decision was made to file for divorce on Saturday, though there was consideration of delaying it. However, once initiated, there would be no turning back. The decision was made to go ahead with the filing the next day, intending to show seriousness in a different way. I phoned my lawyer and explained everything in detail. I exposed her and Clark's plans and told her I'd forgive her. She's planning to pack her bag to see my reaction. I don't want to start a divorce until they've slept together. Can we demonstrate how serious this is? My lawyer had a clever idea. He suggested we could deliver her a letter with a caution. We'll state that we know she's planning to be unfaithful on Saturday, and if she does, we'll initiate the divorce. I thought we should extend the letter and give it to her at her office, with Clark present if possible. What do you think? It will show her that I'm serious. She mentioned that Clark would pick her up for lunch, so I suggested we should give her the letter around 11. Even if he's there, her employer would understand the situation. He's conservative and would disapprove of her behavior. However, what would really disturb him is if a legal server appeared and caused a disturbance. About an hour later, the lawyer sent me a draft of the letter, which was just right for the situation. It had all the important details and clearly stated that she would be served on Saturday morning. I replied to confirm that I agreed with the plan. I checked the tablet, and there were no more messages between Ruby and Clark, so I decided to call it a night. I tried to open the bedroom door, thinking it would be locked, but it was unlocked, which surprised me. Her bag was packed by the wall, as if she was expecting something romantic. I saw her decision and told her it seemed like she had chosen Clark over our marriage. Without waiting for her response, I left and headed to the guest room. She pleaded with me to stay, but I remained silent. I lay on the bed, still dressed, and realized the letters were fabricated by someone else and did not reveal the truth. However, seeing her bag ready for a rendezvous with another man left me feeling deeply wounded and betrayed. I was very, very sad and cried throughout the night. The next morning, I heard Ruby coming downstairs. I returned to our bedroom to shower and change, but my bag was missing. I wondered if she had taken it downstairs, unpacked it, and put it away. After showering, I detected the scent of coffee and bacon, concluding that the bag was downstairs. Entering the kitchen, I encountered her anxious look. My initial reaction was to bolster myself, urging myself not to hold back. I suppose this lavish meal is an attempt to demonstrate the kind of wife you'll be if you decide to be unfaithful, but it won't convince me. If you proceed with this, it's over for us, I declared, choosing to be upfront during our discussion. The lawyer and I had agreed that the divorce papers would be served to you tomorrow morning at breakfast. Once delivered, they cannot be withdrawn. There will be no forgiveness. If you return home tonight, we'll begin counseling to restore trust and prevent this from happening again. Don't even think about coming back. You are not welcome here. As I started to leave, she begged, "Please stay for breakfast. We need to talk." I turned to her and said, "We've already talked about this. Your packed bag shows manipulation, not talking. I won't stay for breakfast. It's time you learn to handle things on your own. If you choose to, I guess the bag was already in your car." She turned away, confirming what I suspected, and left the house without saying anything. At least she understood how serious her actions were. When I arrived at the office, Katie remarked, "You look really tired." I smiled and replied, "And you look as lovely as ever." Before she could inquire further, I continued, "I don't know how it went." When I presented her with Plan B, she became very upset, wanted to fire you, and even declared she would only do it over her dead body. Then she took matters into her own hands this morning and packed my bag for the weekend at 11. She'll receive a letter from me with instructions. Let's see if this concerns her. As I spoke, Katie made coffee, handing me a mug. She said, "I hope she comes to her senses. Surely she can't be so naive as to think this behavior is acceptable for her, but not for you." I offered a melancholy smile and settled at the table. The day was unproductive. Shortly after 11, my phone rang. It was Ruby. "Are you serious?" "Are you really going to divorce me?" she managed to ask, convinced that she had persuaded herself I wouldn't go through with it. I responded without hesitation. "If you deceive me, it's a violation of our agreement. We both understand this. You would divorce me if I were unfaithful." Her response was quiet, but she said, "Yes." Then she coughed and asked, "Will you come home to talk?" I said I would be there in 20 minutes and ended the call. When I got home, I made coffee. The smell of bacon she had cooked earlier still hung in the air, so I opened a window before sitting down to eat. She arrived at the house 10 minutes later, holding an envelope from the lawyer in one hand and her weekend bag over her shoulder. She left her purse at the door and paused. It looked like she wanted to come over and hug me, but she wasn't sure if I would want that. I brought the coffee to the table and asked right away, "Are you still planning to stay at the hotel?" She replied, "How can you ask that after what you sent? Of course, I'm not going. I love you and want to be with you." I knew she wouldn't allow it, so I added, "So everything is off now? Should we repair our marriage, or will the papers still be issued?" She asked, sitting down across from me, her head down, looking at me. I leaned over the table, lifted her face to look into her eyes, and said, "You'll only get the papers if you go to the hotel. No hotel, no documents. Nevertheless, our marriage has been under a lot of stress, so here's what we need to do. First, you'll call Clark with me listening. I need to hear you tell him it's all canceled. Then you need to turn off and delete your personal email account. After that, you'll talk to your boss about Clark's behavior and ask to keep him away from your workplace. After doing these things, we have to start counseling. We need to understand why you felt you had to do this, why you thought I would agree, and how we can rebuild our trust." Just as I finished, her phone rang. It was Clark. She put him on speaker, and I heard him ask, "Where are you, Ruby?" "I'm at reception waiting and can't wait any longer," he said. She took a deep breath and said slowly, "Alistair, I'm back home with Lou. Something he did really affected me. If I go with you, it'll ruin my relationship." "I'm sorry. You're not worth that," she explained. He was very angry. "You're a foolish idiot. Do you know how much effort, time, and money I've spent on you? And now you leave? When someone acts cowardly and then becomes aggressive, you're truly strong." "Screw you," he said furiously before disconnecting. Ruby then understood his true nature, a terrible person. Turning off and deleting the email account proved more challenging than anticipated, but we accomplished it within an hour. Once done, her boss and the HR manager arrived at our doorstep. The HR manager, Marvin Wood, began, "We're quite upset about what occurred, but we are offering you a chance to retain your position. Now, please explain what transpired." Ruby dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief before responding. "As you may recall, about 3 months ago, our account was handed to a new precious metal sales representative, Alistair Clark. Before that, I managed this account, and he would visit me almost daily. At first, I didn't notice, but he began flirting, praising my clothing, hairstyle, and even my smile, commenting on my figure. I was flattered and started wearing more appealing clothes. He sent presents like bouquets and sweets, then asked me out to dinner. Naively, I agreed. During the dinner, he probed into my personal life, my husband, and eventually my intimate life. He started to criticize my husband, claiming he didn't deserve me. It was a slow erosion. He then suggested a weekend trip, but fortunately, Lou intervened. He gave me a letter asking for a divorce, which made me realize what was really happening. I told Alistair I wouldn't leave. Lou and I were trying to fix our marriage. I plan to officially report the incident, so I'm glad you're here." CEO Woods looked at me, nodded, and then spoke to Ruby. "Well, Ruby, we're glad you told the truth. Yes, it was a serious mistake, and you're lucky to keep your job. We're not happy with the quality of the metal products we've been getting, so we'll stop using their account. Clark won't be allowed back here, so we won't take any more action against you. But if anything like this happens again, you'll lose your job. Understood?" Ruby nodded quietly, yes. They wished us well and left. After they left, we had lunch and then started searching for a counselor. Luckily, we found one quite easily. We called and set up a meeting for the next day, Saturday. The time was arranged. About 10 seconds later, I approached Ruby, took her hand, and led her to the bed. We made love. Later, we went to bed, and I fell asleep with my head on her chest. I woke up about an hour later and we shared a tender moment together, maybe the first since she met Clark. The counseling sessions were helpful. Ruby realized that Clark had used her fear of our life becoming boring and predictable. She also understood she had given him the information he needed to control her. For me, I realized that it was just a game for him and began to see how great our life was together. We didn't need anyone else to tell us how to live. The counseling lasted for 3 months, and 4 years later, we're still really happy, and Ruby is pregnant with our first child. As for Mr. Clark, he had a bad fall at our local shopping center while going down the stairs to the parking lot. We don't know exactly what happened, but there were at least 5 husbands at the mall that day who didn't like him. We all wore black clothes and baseball caps and met at the place. We kept changing seats, so it was hard to know who was sitting at the table and who wasn't. Even though the police tried to separate us, none of us said anything. I'm sure one of us did it. I promise. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more.